Hey, peace and blessings. This is Misael Bay, aka Warlock Asylum, in the house. So, I decided to start a video series. I want to discuss some things that are often missed in spirituality, and specifically, people who are, doing their thing through meditation, martial arts, shamanism. I think we'll get on some pretty interesting and deep topics, even some political topics. Uh, so just take it, in stride, pull up, get your oatmeal, tea, water, juice, whatever, Sanka, whatever you want to do, and we're going to talk. Today's video, uh, we'll talk about, choosing spiritual paths and things of that nature. Um, when I was coming up, the first school that I studied in was the teachings of Gurdjieff, and it was through a lineage line. It wasn't like just reading books or whatever. Fourth way studies. This is before I even got into, some of the Chaldean stuff, some of the Necronomicon stuff, Reiki. I had a very deep, um, uh, process in fourth way studies. And the first thing my mentor told me, and I will later read it in some of the material, is that the last thing a man will give up is his suffering because that is what he is most familiar with. Man, that hit me like a ton of bricks. The last thing a man will give up is his suffering because that is what he's most familiar with. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. It's interesting. You know what I mean? Like, this process of self-justification that we have to break. And to be honest with you, the only way it can be broken is through initiation. And although that term is used loosely a lot, initiation doesn't mean ritual. It just means being able to go within, and there are different methods to do that, and all those things should be praised because the process is the same. And this is something I want to talk about that eludes a lot of people when they're trying to alchemate themselves, the process. There are certain tools that are much more refined than others, but the main idea is to understand that our subconscious mind creates our reality. Even in Gates of the Necronomicon, it is acknowledged that ritual is a form of self-hypnotism. So a lot of times, like in the studies of Dr. Bruce Lipton and things that scientists are finding out, day to day, academic scientists, because occultists should be scientists, what I'm saying? They should test what it is they're doing, a lot of times, scientists have discovered the effects of the subconscious mind, how it creates 97% of our reality. This is exciting news because, it is a little bit more closer to the divine than what we think. The main thing is that once you're aware of that, then you want to constantly garden your subconscious mind. Subconscious mind is like having a glass of water. What good is a glass of water if it has poison in it? So the main thing is you want to make your subconscious mind, your center of gravity, what draws experiences to you, you want to make that pure as a glass of water. Okay. And that awareness of getting to that stage is one of the first steps. It's not the total steps. It's not a moral thing. It's not like the subconscious mind is absorbing what the rabbi or the minister is saying in church or whatever. That's taken in like some good emotions and that bounces back, but that's not like the deeper work. And what prevents a lot of people from getting to that is self-justification through lack of initiation. You see what I'm saying? So it doesn't matter, what school you're in, the process is going to be the same. But usually what trips people up is phenomenalism. Okay, phenomenalism is what trips people up. And what I mean by phenomenalism is like if you do something and you call on some energies in the lower astral, because that's the only thing that's going to respond immediately, is things in the lower astral. Just like if you call a neighbor down the block and one next door, the one that's going to respond is the one next door, not the one down the block. So when you call something, it immediately takes off. And these things are known in spiritual houses. Then you pretty much messing with the lower astral realm. It's not always something divine or whatever. And sometimes those things will take resonance in your subconscious mind. So you have to root them out. You know what I'm saying? That's part of the work also. But basically, our thing is call and response. So usually we'll go through a couple of things and then we'll, get to a round robin of what this is all about, which is basically breaking down the sense of self-justification to even enter the work. To even enter the work, we have to break down the process of self-justification. As soon as something happens, we did it for this, or, we're in the position of sympathizing with our life experience. You see what I'm saying? And that sometimes could avoid, us, learning the lessons of life that life is trying to teach us. So we're trying to alchemate to reach to a higher good, and life is also trying to teach us some lessons to help our spirits in our overall process. Okay, let's go straight into this. So usually when a person is trying to get to, the best part of themselves, they may either choose religion or occultism. Religion or occultism. And it's all good. You know what I'm saying? It's all good. Whatever it is that they want to do, in those processes, there's nice association. There's a lot of things that you learn or whatever. Okay, now in both of them actually, occultism and religion, they kind of feed off each other because religion, it kind of hides its occultism, like in a way that doesn't seem obvious, and the people involved in religion, they're kind of condescending to people who are involved in occult studies or whatever. So let's go into religion a little bit. Religion, and nowadays in modern times, there's a lot of things that were extracted from religion, like culture used to be a part of religion. Culture used to be a part of religion. That's not in modern day society the case. Politics and religion was one. Government and religion was one. So religion wasn't really separate than one's national identity. And then in every town that you came from, there was a ruling deity. So a lot of people talk about, nationality is important, whatever. They don't even know what they're saying, because what they're really saying is that, they're dealing with the science of being able to trace their origin to an ancestral deity that represents them in the afterlife. That's what they're saying, because towns are ruled by tutelary deities. And so these tutelary deities were usually the ancestors of the people who originated in that town. That's why nationality is important. But today, religion and all that sort of thing is vastly separated from that. And religion now comes to belief, which is the first in history, recorded history that we have, where it's just like outside the kingdom of Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan, people say whatever he is. He's one of my ancestors, but people can say whatever they want to say about Genghis Khan. But Genghis Khan was a dude who allowed, free religious study, people to investigate, their origins. He created a postal system and stuff. I mean, dude, killed a lot of people, but so did the colonizers. So, it's like calling the kettle black or whatever, however they want to say it. Black is beautiful. So it is what it is. But not to digress too much, but we live in a state where religion is now belief. You can just, believe in what you want to do, and what you're doing is you're hypnotizing yourself through your imagination. You know what I'm saying? I saw Jesus. Okay. My neighbor saw Jesus. The person down the block has a relationship with Jesus. The world is filled with Jesus. And people are dying because Jesus is, the people that worship Jesus believe that the creator of the entire universe needs a human sacrifice to forgive people. That's what they believe. People in religion also believe just in its present state, I'm just speaking about today, they believe that in sacred books, like sacred books that are not utilized for some sort of technique like occultism, but they believe that these books are holy and that they were preserved by the same creator who put 100,000 million stars in the Milky Way galaxies, and there's millions of galaxies in this book. Now, they believe that these sacred books were created to save people's lives. So, in other words, this creator ensured that the book exists, but not the people reading it. This is what some of the things people in religion believe. You know what I'm saying? They believe they should pray so many times a day. They believe, in the human being is sacrifice. They believe that they're chosen people. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on. But basically, I used to read Naim Akbar when I was young, and he said that religion is the deification of culture. And I would have to agree. This is what religion is. And it doesn't mean that it's wrong. There's a lot of, like I said, it's like a lot of beautiful, if you like to eat good fruits, look at religion and going into these houses is eating good emotions, socializing with people and, bonding, and those things are good. A lot of times the adepts used to use religious houses to find people who were worthy to study paths, and religion was more like a purifier for that. There's a lot of things that could be, it gives a basic analogy, and in this world, we're like into the kindergarten of the spiritual tree of the higher worlds, so this is the first grade or kindergarten or whatever. So religion's, it plays a role in that. Eventually man will move beyond it, because it's just a stage of his existence, like people have imaginary friends. So those are things going on in religion. A lot of people believe that these religions, you have to worship a certain deity, and that deity is going to, save you. And that's possible, to some degree. They can pull you into their secret society that's invisible, these deities, or whatever the case may be. Some are bigger than others. Christianity is a big invisible organization. It's not the only invisible organization, but it's a pretty, big organization. Islam, Judaism, Buddhism. But here's the thing with that sort of thing. Now that we, like we know in studies and stuff that your subconscious mind creates the world, now people are calling on deity for everything. Can you fix a tire? Can you get a woman for me? I need a new job. All these different things. It's like taking a sugar pill. You know what I'm saying? And eventually what happens is you start calling on these things, and they start coming into your life and causing havoc, so you can keep calling on them. Especially if they're not your ancestors. If you have well, there's other things you can call besides ancestors, but in the general sense of the term, ancestors have a special position in looking out for you, because you're supposed to look out for them, which strengthens them in their world, and you're strengthened in our world. And this is why Yahweh was like, yo, B, I'm Abraham's ancestor. Like in some texts, some scholars have said this dude is the post-life Nimrod. And Abraham, I can get you, this position where everyone is looking at you as the dude. But what I need you to do is I need you to get these other people to worship me, which gives me more energy in the post-life so I could do my work. So that's why you need to go conquer nations. And I'm going to pose as the creator of the universe to do that. And I'm going to slide you some special privileges. You could take the land and everything, because you're strengthening me and you're forcing these other people to worship me, which gives me more power. But since you're my direct descendant, I'm going to give you the bigger portion. And that's just how that works. You see what I'm saying? Now, what does that have to do with alchemating yourself? It should be obvious that that's not the answer, but this is what the majority of the world believes in. The majority of the world believes in this deity that's going around telling people, if you don't worship me, I'm going to kill you, and stupid stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Then you look into the book, look into the Bible. It says that there was a garden that God planted in the east of Eden, right? I'm like, oh, okay. And then Cain kills Abel, and where does he go? To the east of Eden. This is in the Bible. This is in the Bible. So it's like, okay, this dude's a murderer. Not only was he a murderer, but he gets to go back to Eden where the other couple got kicked out for eating an apple. He kills somebody, he can go back. And then on top of all of this, what is it? He builds the first city called Enoch, which was the name of the first prophet post Abraham. So, I don't know, it's a lot of foolishness. So all these books, I'm going to keep it straight with you, in the monotheistic world of Western society, they're biographies. They don't have any instructions in them. And even though people believe in Jesus, Jesus said, I teach you the things about the kingdoms of heaven. I don't teach these people. So none of his teachings are in the Bible. It's just that simple. It's a good book. There's a lot of good stories. But any Christian alchemist, any Christian mystic, any priest of the Catholic Church will tell you the exact same thing. Even ministers who were, whatever, they'll tell you the same thing. It's a lot of stories. It's a lot of stories. And those stories are good for keeping society civil, for keeping commerce and trade important. That's the religious path. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot that can be gained from that. There's a lot of prosperity that can be gained. Maybe people can learn some of the life lessons. Now, can they alchemate themselves with that material? Absolutely not. Let's look at the next phase. Occultism. Okay. Occultism. Occultism is the science of the hidden laws of nature. Studying these laws, learning about them, testing it the same way academic scientists work. Unfortunately, the term occultism is associated with magic. And magic, there's a true form of magic, which is doing. Gurdjieff spoke about an example where he said, that dude, like, some of the dudes in India or whatever on the East, they can lie on the bed of nails. Like, man, wow, I can do that. Walk on coals and all that stuff. And those things, I can't do those things. You know what I'm saying? I don't have no desire to do those things, but it's nice to do if you can do them or whatever. But it doesn't mean that you're enlightened. It just means that, like you say some word and your skin tightens, or you say something and there's an insensitivity in your feet. You know what I'm saying? Showing you the power of the subconscious mind. Like, wow, this person could do that? That's amazing. You know what I'm saying? However, at the same time, they don't know how it works. They just know if they say this word, they can do this and they get like a lot of attention. That's the whole New Age society today. And that one example, they just do something to get a lot of attention. Reiki is real, right? Reiki is real. But, the premise of that is, I'm going to do this to help people, and you're not even alchemating yourself. That's what you're here for. You were given a portion to develop. Like a woman who's pregnant. You're in the same situation. You're given a portion to develop. And you're going around, making it about something else because you're trying to escape from your own problems. That's occultism today, as far as how the term is used. And a lot of times people don't know what it is that they're doing. You know what I mean? So, it's one of the reasons why I kind of paused for a while on teaching a lot of the Sumerian, the Chaldean stuff, was because you run into people and they want to make it something that it's not. You know what I'm saying? So, and they're only going to imitate what's in front of them. That's another thing. Imitation. It's another mechanical thing. And these people cannot alchemate themselves. All they could do is talk about a priest here and a priest there who, he knew a lot of things. He was able to help a lot of people. He was able to kill some people probably, able to heal some people. And he died. He died. So he didn't leave the body before he died. He just died. So you want to end up like that. You know what I'm saying? Then it's just you might as well go into corporate, and just will that stock. That's a greater magic than, hanging out, burning some incense in a half broke down shack, you know what I'm saying, in the worst part of the community, and they making the community worse. Why? Because someone comes to them. You ever notice, like, people who do what they call witchcraft? You can always tell the areas because they're the worst. You see what I'm saying? And the reason why is because a lot of times they don't even know what they invoking. They say, I'm doing this, and they invoking animal spirits. You know they're animal spirits because what the sacrifice is. You are what you eat. So that tells you, okay, these are animal spirits, and they're deceiving these people, right? It's powerful. It can do some things, from the mind to mind. There's pure forms, there's less pure forms. But what happens is, you go to someone, hey man, I want you to do this to this person, whatever. First of all, you kind of corrupting your generations because you start doing that. You might not experience it, but people down the line in your community, your generations will, and that's how karma balances things out because spirituality originally was based on ancestor worship. So you the ancestor, you doing stuff and you damaging your seeds, you're not gonna prosper in your post life. Yeah, you could prosper now, get that 5 minutes of fame. It's the same thing with parking new bins in front of the worst housing projects ever. You doing that spiritually. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna and that's no golf to someone who's living in those type of communities, whatever. It's difficult, you know what I'm saying? But it's just recognize what you're doing. So to get back into the mix, you paying someone to do this. He don't even know that he's dealing with animal spirit. You got energies that have a lot of correspondences. They got correspondences of color, incense, and everything. But how you entreat them tells you what correspondence you dealing with. So you come at this dude like, man, I want you to do this to this person or whatever. Okay. So what he does, he goes to an animal spirit that's a correspondence of a deity. Let's say like Shango. Now it's an animal spirit of the Shango side, but you just hear Shango, so you think like, oh man, I'm working with, the original Shango, he possibly Shaka Zulu, all this crazy stuff or whatever. But make a long story short, after that work is done and that person is injured, now that animal spirit is free to do whatever it wants to because you brought it, or the shaman brought it into the world, never banished it. There's nobody banishing stuff. So what happens is you got these communities where what was done to this person is now just running around loose, entering people's bodies so it could do it to someone else. And that's what it is. That's why we don't prosper. There's another reason why. Because people are angry. You know what I'm saying? They listen to this stuff on YouTube and they go home angry. And, what does that do to your subconscious mind? What is your center of gravity? So now you're feeling it with anger, even if it's right or wrong. It doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? You just drawing angry situations to yourself because I'm right. And that's what you're doing. And so and that's self-justification. You know what I'm saying? In esoteric schools, beliefs are the thoughts contained in your subconscious mind, whether you agree with them or not. Those are your beliefs because you think it's possible. So all that entertainment, all that stuff is just poisoning your mind because it's a thought. Now it exists. It has a potential of jumping off. And it's just that simple. It's just that simple. But getting to the occultism side, because that's a little bit more complex. So we're going to talk about magic and how the false magic has superseded the true magic in today's world. The false magic is ignorance. It's doing stuff and not knowing how it works. It's just that simple. So you hear something like, hey man, I heard this is pretty good, whatever. You don't even know what it is and you doing it. You know what I'm saying? And so, and the people who are supposed to be responsible teaching, they allow it. You know what I'm saying? You could pull back as a teacher. I have, because there's too much stupidness going on. You know what I'm saying? And people get on certain levels of degrees and think that, they're getting powerful. And all they're getting is a force eating away at their mind. So this is how this works. We already know that 97% of our realities are created for my subconscious minds. If you're not aware of it, I suggest that if you're watching this video, look into the work of Dr. Bruce Lipton. They even talk about how genetics is not even like a blood trait, it's more like a trait where we inherit genetically comes through the subconscious mind. It's very interesting stuff. So to make a long story short, you know what I'm saying? Different branches of occultism. First one is ritual magic. What are people doing when they're doing ritual? Everyone does ritual. Even in religion, they do ritual. And so what they're doing when they're doing ritual, if they're not aware of what they're doing, they're committing themselves to self-hypnosis. They're setting this thing up to hypnotize themselves. And even in books like Gates and Necronomicon, Simon mentions hallucinations because they're the product of self-hypnosis. Not saying that they don't cause effects on reality, but it's a process of self-hypnosis. So you have these emotions. Emotions are the spirits. A lot of shamans will tell you this. You know what I'm saying? If I possess anger, you possess anger. Anger is something in us, but it's also without us. It's in the air. We can call it. Now they gave it a name in ancient times because the mythologies were actually scientific documents that discuss how to move emotional energy. But it's a mythology because of this hemisphere of the mind it has to appeal to. You see what I'm saying? So in magic, there's two minds. There's the primal mind, which is more based in the sexual center, and then there's the logical mind, you know, that sort of thing or whatever. And so it is what it is, you know what I mean? But this is what happens. People hypnotize themselves like I'm powerful and, you know, all this other crazy stuff. Maybe they are powerful, you know, but they're not alchemating themselves. You know what I'm saying? Then to make matters worse, sometimes they'll call on something like, and it enters them and it rides in their subconscious mind. It's seated in that throne. And what it will do, it will give the person a sense of clairvoyant powers, which I'm going to demonstrate happens in nature. But it's using the person to feast on neighbors and stuff like that. And this is why in ancient times, like, they would go burn the witch. Like, this stuff is bad happening because the witch, not all witches, I mean, I'm Warlock Asylum, you know what I mean? But it's like they would bring something in and it would harness itself in the subconscious mind and give the person a false sense of clairvoyant powers. Then it would strike at the people in the community, like on some vampire stuff or whatever. And that's one reason why witches got blamed for a lot of stuff. A lot of witches was healing people, and a lot of them were destroying people, and some didn't know what they were doing. And so that's the thing with the ignorance in the occult world. They don't know what they're doing. So they're just calling something, and they're calling it an ancestor, and it's not really an ancestor. You know what I'm saying? The only ancestors that you should be calling are the ones that you know. You know what I'm saying? If someone comes and tells you this is your ancestor and there's some shit that existed, you shouldn't even be dealing with that. Not at the first stage of the game. You know what I'm saying? You shouldn't be dealing with that. That's just something to pull you into something that they're not even aware of. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm going to tell you how the tree works. A lot of y'all watching this video know how the tree of life works. So on some ancestry level, when a nation goes in and conquers another nation and kills all these people and, you know, gives them their names and stuff and stomps them out, it's stomping out their lineage, right? But the lineage itself is the tree. This is what people don't understand. Tree of life is the lineage. So you calling something else, that ain't your lineage. You can call the sphere, but it has to contain the lineage. So let me give you an example. Typically, we experience generations in three, right? And that's the tree of life. So in other words, it's the son, the father, the grandfather. The son will see the father and the grandfather typically, right? Now what's beyond the grandfather is the great-grandfather. The great-grandfather represents the first step of Yesod from Malkuth. You see what I'm saying? So every 3 generations, you're building your tree of life. So for people who are oppressed in this country and they want to build, you know, whatever, and they, you know, getting back into that, it would take them 21 generations just before they could solidify a tree. And that's just how that works. You know what I'm saying? That's just how that works. So, so you have all these things going on and people saying you should call it ancestors stuff. And a lot of times there's some kind of predatory spirit that will enter the subconscious mind and strike out at people. And then what it's doing at the same time is eating away at the mind. When I was teaching Chaldean shamanism, necronomic and that stuff, you know how many people are insane and don't even know it? Because first, you know what I'm saying? You coming along, sharing something, trying to build an original school, and they're thinking like you on some okie doke, and this works the same way that Boudin no, those are two different systems, B. Two different, totally different systems, and some things can alchemate and some things can't, and then those things are just shadows of even deeper systems. You know what I'm saying? So, but to make a long story short, sometimes those systems are inappropriately used and they become established inappropriate systems. You see what I'm saying? And so what they'll do is they'll bring people, all this power, but then you look, at the countries, like look at their state of affairs, and it's like there's no prosperity. So if those energies are leaving people in a state of non-prosperity, what are they really? You know what I'm saying? Are they the forces that create the universe, or are they forces of the dead just imitating something else? Or are they forces of the dead that's on the dead side of those houses and the broken tree of shells and stuff like that? So it's a whole bunch of stuff on that end. But I just wanted to say that that path ain't the way. Ain't the way because there's no prosperity in it. And you'll find people doing all this stuff. Oh, my uncle died, or my cousin got thrown in jail, or and they don't even realize it's because of what they're doing. And if you try to tell them that, nah, man, it's not me, and I love these, okay, you're deceived, and it comes from it can come from a lot of different things, but a lot of times it comes from not keeping the mind pure or the intent going into the chamber. You see what I'm saying? So animal spirit is like two dogs meeting each other. And you invoke this inside of you, now you become the animal. So you'll find every sort of reason to justify striking out at a person. You know what I'm saying? That's how those things work. It's very sad. Very sad. And so what happens is people do this self-hypnosis. Let me set up the altar. Self-hypnosis. And there's nothing wrong with it because you can create a strong broadcast signal if you're aware of what you're doing. But if you're walking around thinking a system is more powerful than the process of the subconscious mind, you don't get it. And it's already eating away at your mind. How does this work in nature? It works through a perfect demonstration is insight-parasite relationships. So you have a parasite that needs to reproduce in water. This really exists. And it would enter a grasshopper, and the grasshopper is not aware. And it would get inside the grasshopper and change the proteins in the brain of the grasshopper. Now the grasshopper, is acting funny, and they commit suicide by jumping in water. But then the worm is able to get out and to lay its eggs in the water, right? So how many times we hear somebody committing suicide or doing something like that? Who knows? Maybe there was something in there that got into their minds, that changed the proteins around, stuff like that. You got another parasite-insect relationship. Well, I think it's some kind of worm, and it usually mates like once a month. And once this parasite gets into it, it starts mating 3 times a day. Nymphomaniac. Maybe something is inside this person, causing them to behave a certain way. But then again, there's no one doing exorcisms. That's not part of society. They just want to, get magic to get money. You should be prosperous. You should seek for prosperity. But, true prosperity is keeping your neighborhood clean. Keeping, the energy pure, and nothing dirty can get in there. And if you have children, or if you have, situations or whatever, if you just want to walk down the block, whatever it is, you got 1,000 people doing something and you can't walk down the block, then it ain't good. You know what I'm saying? So that's that side of it. Then there's the other side that affects person's sanities and stuff like that. So, you know, sometimes there's reasons why people look at certain things certain ways. You know what I'm saying? That you may not see. Now, if you're a person who gets it, like because a lot of times these systems, like the Necro, they were coming from established kingdoms that had good technology. People were eating good, and the machine, like all machines do, they break down. To get back into it, let me just see how much time I have. I'm gonna close this down a little bit. To get back into it, what it is that like those kingdoms are like clouds. So a cloud will come, it'll drop its rain, and then it'll evaporate and leave. That's the spaceship. That's how the spaceship works. The mothership and stuff. It's not like something mechanical. It is mechanical, but not like in the sense of what a lot of people think. It's just like a cloud. It comes, it drops its plants, and then leaves. And that's how it talks about this in the ivory tablets. That's how those civilizations come and go. And so people who want to catch that ship, like, you have a choice now because you have all this technology, a lot of history on Earth. You could be like, yo, I want to get, what I'm saying, on this ship. So I'm going to join the Chaldean ship. I'm going to join the Cometian ship. You know what I'm saying? And the thing about that stuff, it's good, but you don't want to join it in its mechanical stage of degradation. So just make sure that you're aware of what you're doing. And those things are good for imitation, but they're not developing the person unless you can find the formulas in the system of how they were developed. You see what I'm saying? So when I was taught coming up, I had a human teacher and I had a non-human teacher. You know what I'm saying? And that's how I learned, certain things, and I still have to deal with my own lessons in life. But I try to share information in an honest way that's integral. It's not anything subject to opinion or different things of that nature, because then that just puts it into dogma. I'm not perfect, you know what I'm saying? So there's always a lot of things to learn because I'm learning lessons in life like we all are learning. But those are things with like occultism and religion that could be deceptive. And then they could deceive people into thinking that they're doing something and they're not really. They're really not, you know what I'm saying? And there's a power and it's not in any of those things. You know what I'm saying? It's in looking at your mind as an open field and pulling the weeds out. Making sure that good things can grow. And that's why a lot of books, they talk about the analogy of the gardener. And that's what it's about. It's about, pulling them weeds out and stuff like that. And you start doing that, what it does is it aligns you with the mind that rules all things. Now, you can call it spirit, or you can be in tune with the mind that rules all things. I think that's a no-brainer. But for you to do that, it doesn't come through ritual in that sense. It comes with an active work that is a little bit non-mechanical, because it's mechanical in certain senses, but it you start seeing the randomness of your thoughts are mechanical, your stuff like that. When I was coming through school, one of the teachers had told me in the fourth way teachings. When I first got there, I was excited. I was like, oh man, I was reading all these books, whatever. And they looked at it that as negativity because I was talking out the moment. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about something in the past and trying to bring it in here, So that they said that was negative. I was offended at first until I understood what it was really going on. So then he gave me instruction. It was a Saturday. He said, look, I want you, every time you walk through a portal of a door, tap yourself on the back of the hand. So that's it? You know what I'm saying? I said, yeah, that's it. So the first couple of days, I got it. And then I will forget. But when I would forget to do it, I noticed my mind was on the same thing. Like it was on some chick or something, or somebody I would see in this train station or whatever. And I would forget to tap myself on the back of the hand. So By the time the Saturday came, it was 7 days later. I went from doing it 90% of the time to about 5% of the time. So I was embarrassed, but I had to be honest. I couldn't be on some self justification stuff. You know what I'm saying? Otherwise, I'm not doing the exercise. So the guy said, "That's good because now you can see how much asleep you were." You see what I'm saying? And so that's the thing. Like some of these things don't really keep us active, mentally. We're just like everyone else. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people sometimes they get caught in phenomenalism. You set the furniture up, come back in the room, furniture set up differently. A lot of people get caught up in that. And oh man, I'm doing something. You're not doing anything. You're just letting someone come into your house who probably is just like a wandering energy. Wandering energies are like prostitutes or drug dealers, whatever, died early, and their energies are disincarnate, and they'll gather up and make a whole other organization and try to get you to do some stuff for them so they can feel empowered and give you like pennies on the table, and you walking around excited because something happens that breaks the laws of logic, but is not helping you at all. This is what half the world is deceived by. Whether it's Jesus or whether it's like a Ouija board, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. You know what I'm saying? This dude, he's going to help me because he needs a sacrifice. You don't need a human sacrifice to do anything. I just need to do what I need to do. I need to forgive you, then you're forgiven. You know what I'm saying? And if I'm aware, I should forgive you. You know what I'm saying? Because of the situation, the state that you was made in or whatever. But you're going to go out there and proselytize this foolishness. And you look at these places, they're in the worst neighborhood, some of these churches, and the liquor stores and stuff. That ain't Jesus. The Jesus in the Pentecostal church is not the same Jesus in the Catholic church or in the Baptist church or in the Jehovah's Witness church. They're just different spirits that are branched from the same tree. And that's it. You know what I'm saying? That is it. That shit ain't going to help you at all. You know what I'm saying? It'll help you hypnotize yourself. Get into a state of health or hypnosis where you can see a glimpse once every 2 years or something. But then at the same time you're doing that, everything else is falling apart around you and you feel righteous because you're on some team and watching your own fellow human beings die because they're not on the same team that you are. And you consider that the highest good of yourself. The sun shines on everybody. That's the reality we're living in. Draw your own conclusion, So basically, one of the first steps how a person can get out of self-justification and to really get on understanding like a path that they should take is just keep a journal. Keep a journal and meditate. Do it for 30 days. I guarantee you see like a whole lot of things a lot more clearer because it's serious. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people caught up in this little nonsense out here, thinking this is all the reality is, and all they are is just depressed because they're ruled by something. You see what I'm saying? They don't even see what's on their back. So regardless if they, if they do magic, a lot of the people are led to magic so that force that oppresses them could be amplified. Meditation, so it could be amplified. Then you get inside the church and you see the force on the cross that's oppressing people. And it's amplified in the world. And that's the reality. So keep a journal for 30 days. Get back to me and say one meditation. Create your own meditation and don't differ. Don't switch it up. Just create one meditation. And try it out for 30 days and keep a journal for 30 days and you'll see your life change. This is me, Sal Bay, aka Warlock Asylum. I'm gonna say peace. I'm gonna get some sleep, edit this video down, and give y'all another shot. I'll catch you later.